This short video is meant to introduce you to the Learning IDE. We'll be using as our example a project that belongs to the 357 class this winter quarter, but those working in other languages or for other classes will have very similar layout, just different instructor and assignment, and perhaps a different programming language as well, and we'll try and point out the differences as they arise. When you log into the Learning IDE, which is at www.softwareinventions.com/IDE/IDE.html, right up there. You get the page that you're looking at here with a login and a register button, and it's a fairly standard arrangement. To register, give an email, first and last name, and a password. I've already got an account, so I won't fill this out, but there's no surprises here. You do want to make sure the email is accurate, since it is your ticket to get a password change, and we're not verifying it other than to make sure that it's of email format, so be sure you get the right email in there. When you log in then, you give your name and password, and you get a little logged in green toast that went by a little quickly there. The Learning IDE interface is quite simple. It's meant for introductory programming, so it does not have a lot of elaborate options to it. The account menu will let you modify your account if you like, change a password, that sort of thing, and log out. But this is a web app, so you don't really have to log out. You can just walk away. And you have your work saved instantly on the cloud, so there's no save command. It's like Google Docs, for instance, or any other web-based document system. The main menu that you'll be working with here is the project menu. And as you can see, you have two choices there, new project or open an existing one. You'll start by creating a new project. And you have a couple of options here. But the one you'll be using in your classes is to create a project based on an existing model that your instructor will provide. Otherwise, you can create a new one. And you really have two choices here. You either create first you give a project name to it. We're going to call this extra credit, since that is the case for the 357 class. And if you want to create a brand new project without any model, you pick a language here and then go from there. But if you have a model, your instructor's email and the assignment name are filled in here. And again, if you don't have a model you're working off of, then don't bother with those two fields. The 357 class will be working with Mr. Mammon's email here, calpoly.edu, and assignment is EC Lab, and we confirm that, and we get a project created. Now, most of the work that you'll be doing is surrounding these controls here, and there are really two panels. The feedback panel we'll talk about in a little bit, but the main panel you'll deal with is right here, and it has two tabs, a Files tab and a standard Compile tab. The Files tab shows you files in your project, and in the case of the 357 project, there's only one. There may be several in other projects. To open up a file, you just double-click it. 357 project is going to ask you to fill in a program involving a little bit of bitwise manipulation, and you have the empty code to fill in here. Now, once you've filled it in, and we'll do something that's actually not an answer to the problem, but familiar enough product. Hello world. And we'll declare a value and scan it in, so we have a little bit of input going on too. Thus. Now, you go to the standard Compile tab to do your compiling and your running. And we have here a compile button. And if you have compile errors, as I did in my example, they'll show up here. Looks like I kind of screwed up my printf, so let's get that right. Maybe clean up a few blank lines here too. And try compiling again. And now we get green toast, and our compile is done. To run the program, you click the Run button here. We'll talk about these others in a moment. And you get a little terminal emulator window that lets you interact with the program as you would in a normal terminal session. The thing is obviously waiting for me to enter val here in C, and I'll enter in 2, and we get back our print hello world 2, and you can see that the run is completed, and we're done. Now, there will also be test cases. Oh, I'm sorry, parenthetically I should mention, if you're working in another language, Python for example, there is no such thing as compilation per se in Python. It's an interpreted language. But there are pre-checks that the interpreter will do, and that's what you'll get from the compile. It will go do whatever the interpreter is willing to do as a pre-check before running, and you can clear those error messages and then do the run. So, these tests here are automatic runs. And to really see what they're doing, you need to bring up the configuration, which you can do by going to the name of the test and doing a right-click context menu and doing Edit. And what you'll see here is that test 1 has this input and this output. And they're standard tests with expected input and output. And you don't really spend a lot of time reading it in the dialog, so don't worry about the fact that you can't see too much of it at a time. I'm just showing you what's going on. You'll have a limit on CPU time, 1 second, clock limit, wall clock time of 3 seconds, and then these input and outputs are, the input will be fed to the program, and this output is expected. When you run the test, you'll get a result that is either green if you did the output correctly, or red if there was a mistake. Now, obviously, the output in question is intended for the bitwise lab, and we just did a hello world program, so it's really not going to be correct. When you have a bad output, you just click, and I'm afraid that the narrow window of my video here isn't going to let me do this properly. Expand this a little, see the whole thing. Hopefully that works. What you get is the expected output here and the actual output over here, and anything that is different between the two shows in red. And you can compare line by line. So pretty clearly we did a hello world program, and the expected output has to do with bitwise patterns, and the diff algorithm is picking up the fact that at least there was an INS and an IN and an S in the two respective outputs, but obviously that's not much of a meaningful match. When you test your program, you'll of course get closer than this, but any differences will show up in the diff here, and you can look at that to figure out what's going on. Once you do the run correctly, you'll get a green toast. And the goal for your lab or assignment is to get all the automatic runs green. All the test cases that are expected of you will be installed automatically as part of the assignment that you copy, and you just got to get them green. A couple other small details. If you want to change the name of a file, you can do so by context menu again on the file name with a rename. You can even remove a file if you want to. If you have multiple files, that's fine. They'll all be collectively compiled and collectively run as one project. All those that have the same suffix, so .c files in a C project, .py files in a Python project, and so on. Okay, now moving on here to the feedback panel. The reason we're looking for your help in running this and trying it out is that we hope that this product will be able to improve user interface for beginning programming. And in particular, it is keeping careful track of everything you do. There'll be a means by which you could play back your entire work session in time-lapse if you like, stroke by stroke, keystroke by keystroke, so that you can see exactly what you did, when you compiled, what bugs you got. By collecting this kind of information, we hope we can do things like build a better compiler, maybe do some automatic testing or AI data analysis, I should say, to determine whether you're hitting some trouble and might want a little bit of help. To that end, we have installed some basic data collection and analysis tools, and we'd like your help in verifying, or at least giving us some sort of feedback from your perspective as to how well we're doing in judging what difficulties you may be having. And that's what the feedback panel is about. There are 3 parts to it. We have a data analytic system that determines when you have found a bug, compile or runtime. And we'd like, if you would please, if you can remember to click Found Bug when you think you found one, and we'll see if our system agrees with you, and you'll get a little green toast. You saw it go by there saying that your submit was successful. The next thing here is a slider bar to indicate your degree of frustration. If you're feeling pretty good about stuff, put it here. If you're having trouble and you're really kind of feeling like putting your fist through the screen, run on the other direction or somewhere in between. And we will have a system that is trying to gauge the level of difficulty someone's having by looking at compile problems they may be having, runtime problems they're having, and see if we can match up with your interpretation of how you really feel through that slider bar. And then the third thing is any comments you'd like to make. Just make your comments, and they can be profane if you like. So just put a little comment in there and click submit, and you will get that submitted. The thing is going to periodically pulse red. And the purpose of that, sorry for the slightly irritating UI, is to remind you please to update your slider bar if you are feeling differently than you were last time you'd updated it. And if you want the pulse red to turn away, just turn off, just change the slider bar very slightly and it'll go away. But we do hope that you'll pay attention to this and give us your feedback as to how things are going so that we can do the analysis that we would like to improve this product even further. And that about sums it up. Everything else is pretty obvious. Tab here for different files you have open. You can shut a file down by Xing it and double click to bring it back. No surprises in any of the other UI that this thing offers. Thank you much for being willing to use the Learning IDE. We are very much interested in your feedback, positive or negative, and hope that it's an interesting experience for you.